Hi, I'm Bronwyn Williams. We're back with the Flux 15-minute foreplay conversations where we're talking to different thought leaders from all across the world about different aspects of foresight and thinking ahead when it comes to both your personal journey as a leader and, of course, your company or your organizational journey too. And today our guest is Mike Stopforth. And Mike, we wanted to ask you about the tool that you've been using over the last few years to help leaders navigate the different types of change that are available to organizations, particularly when it comes to overlaying technology and everything that comes with it in terms of the amplification and the increased speed and velocity that technological change brings to organizations. So can you talk us through your transformation matrix or model that you use to simplify the choices available to organizations?
Sure, Bronwyn, thank you for the opportunity to share some ideas. I think what's uniquely challenging about emerging digital trends and technologies for so many of the organizations that I work with is that they seem like, in many instances, shiny placebos, opportunities to magically solve challenges that have been endemic or systemic for a very long time. And my job really is to help negate some of the hype and the buzzworthiness of these emerging trends and technologies, because I think sometimes they can be distracting. And I think sometimes we can rely too much on technology or software to solve problems for us, rather than understanding the underlying principles that make those trends and technologies possible, and rather making decisions about them based on our understanding. So I'm really interested in this idea of digital literacy or digital capability building. There are several large consulting or accounting firms that have induction programs that include a base level understanding or introduction of emerging technologies. One of them is called TQ, which stands for Technology Quotient, obviously building on IQ or EQ. As consultants love a fancy phrase, but I think that they're really onto something there, in that we all need to be looking after our TQ, our digital quotient, if you like, our understanding of fundamental basic computing principles. Because I think if we understand how things like processing power work, and we understand things like storage capacity and bandwidth, and we have some grasp of trends like decentralization, which fuel topics like Bitcoin and cryptocurrency and the blockchain, then these emerging technologies and trends aren't a surprise. They're an eventuality. They're a likelihood. And instead of looking to them to magically solve our problems for us, we're looking at them through the lens of feasibility. Do they make sense for our organization, given the limitations and the challenges that we face, maybe our internal complexity, maybe the level of technological infrastructure we have access to right now, and maybe even, broadly speaking, the level of technological literacy in our business. So yeah, I'm really interested in elevating that level. Just a final thought on digital literacy. Gibbs, the organization that you and I have a privilege of working with on these programs, has run for many, many successful years a program called Finance for Non-Financial Managers, a program I did a couple of years ago, because unlike you, I'm not an economist and I don't find the world of financial literacy easy to navigate. And I've never been strategically financially oriented. But you reach a certain level in business where if you're not financially literate, you're negligent. And I believe the same to be true of technology today. I think as leaders, there is a level of responsibility that we have for developing our technological literacy, our digital literacy, in the same way that we would our financial literacy. And a failure to do so is borderline negligence on our part. And so, yes, I'm excited about a future where Gibbs has a Digital for Non-Digital Managers program alongside their Finance for Non-Financial Managers program.
I love what you said about how in today's day and age, you have EQ, you have IQ, and now you have TQ, right? How do you gauge as a leader, especially in the face of uncertainty, if you even have TQ? Because assumptions that we have these smart devices that we use every day, people think if they hold a cell phone or if they can type emails on a laptop, they have some form of digital literacy. How do you know, like, what is like the 5-step plan? Like, what questions do you need to ask yourself? Like, how do you gauge what your TQ is?
Business. One of them is that older people struggle with technology and younger people find it easier. And maybe there's a degree of truth in that generalization, which is a byproduct probably more of the circumstances in which we grew up more than anything else. And what I've realized is digital literacy is more than understanding how hardware works. It's more than having an ability to code, and that might be helpful for some people. But I know many coders who are really capable engineers, but struggle to understand the communication dynamics that come with the digital realm. So it's more than just the kind of technical bits. Yes, it's helpful to have some degree of understanding of the technical underpinnings of the digital world, but I think we also want to understand how digital tools and trends are changing society, which is your realm. It's how these tools are impacting the way that we connect, communicate, collaborate, maybe even form relationships today. And then how that might look in the future off the back of some of what Bronwyn has already mentioned, the intimidatingly rapid rate of progress that we see happening in the worlds of digital development, AI, and so on and so forth. Diagnosing your level of digital literacy is really tough, but I guess one of the ways is to have an honest conversation with yourself about how technologies or tools around the boardroom table, or in conversation with colleagues, or when you're visited by somebody who is trying to sell you a service or a new tool or a new product. How comfortable do you feel that you can be authoritative and credible in that conversation? And I think if conversations that are around digital tools and technologies initiate a level of fear or concern, then that's probably a good indication that there's work to be done on one's DQ, if you like, one's level of digital literacy. But having said that, it's a very broad realm. So you can have a deep sense of literacy in data and analytics and still struggle with digital communication. And I guess that's the reality of this universe. But broadening your understanding as much as possible, I think, can never be a bad idea.
I've got another question. Mike, when it comes to adopting technology and developing your digital literacy, how do you know when that is a necessity and when that is a nicety? In other words, when do you have to use technology to actually change, and when can you and should you use technology to do what you're already doing better and more efficiently?
Cool. Yeah, so Bronwyn, I think that there's two ways to think about the role that technology can play in addressing organizational or systemic or delivery challenges. The one is to think of technology as an antibiotic, so a magical solution to our inefficiencies or our dysfunctions. And the other one is to think of it as an amplifier, so something that takes what is already working, what is already good, what is already efficient, what is already productive, and just makes it bigger, more, kind of gives it more reach, gives it more exposure, makes it easier to access, and hopefully delivers a better experience to the customer or employee at the end of the day. Now, it is possible in some instances that technology can help us leapfrog inefficiencies or dysfunctions or something that's just not working, or to innovate, create something entirely new in a realm that maybe we haven't explored before. And the stories of those types of innovations and digital expeditions into the unknown are varied and exciting and very inspiring to us. But sometimes when we intend for technology to play that role, actually lands up playing the role of amplifier by default. So if we've got a inefficient customer service protocol in our business, and we decide that we want to use an AI chatbot to fix that, the chances are that it's going to make the inefficient customer service protocol just faster, and it's going to deliver our ineffectiveness to our customer quicker rather than solve that and make it easier. So yeah, making sure we know when we want technology to play the role of antibiotic and when we want it to be an amplifier, is really important. And secondly, not mistaking the one for the other is critically important as well. Otherwise, technology does tend to expose parts of our incapability that we'd rather our customers not subject to.
Is there a model that we can use to be able to determine like where we are on this journey? So you just said we have to decide if it's going to be an amplifier or it's going to be an antidote, right? A temporary fix, right? How do we know what to do when? What is the stages like? How do we gauge, and what would the process be as an organization?
So it's, again, really difficult to apply one formula as an answer to that question that will apply to all organizations of all sizes, shapes, and levels of digital maturity. But one of the frameworks that we've offered our clients tool, a diagnostic tool, if you like, is something we call Darwin. So Darwin is an acronym that starts with a conversation around data, which we would call the foundations, the DNA of digital, and then looks at things like automation, AI, and algorithms, and then looks at really fancy deployments of those technologies into experiences of augmented and virtual reality or robotics. And then we would look at decentralization under the category of W, Web 3.0, if you like, IoT, and then finally the borderlands of digital innovation, things like nanotechnology, biotechnology, and the future of quantum computing, and so on. And what we've tried to do is help our clients understand that as a progression, right? Socializing the idea that you can only do the really cool and innovative stuff if you have great foundations in place, and then allowing them to, I guess, score their understanding or rate their understanding of those different areas of capability, and then explore ways to advance their understanding in turn. The other reality of technology is that it's not just about those verticals, if you like. There's also a horizontal function that technology plays in most of our clients, and that's probably the best description of digital transformation that I've come across yet. And I'm going to try and get this across succinctly, is the project around improving your systems so that you can collect and organize and distribute useful information to the right people in the organization at the right time. Okay. In a knowledge economy, the business that has access to the very best insight, which is a byproduct of the very best information, is going to have the best competitive advantage. And for me, digital transformation is the exercise of getting that insight to people more efficiently than anybody else can. Obviously, said that simply, we're bypassing all of the complexity that comes with legacy infrastructure and all of the billions of data points we could possibly have access to, and the obvious problems of getting that to the right people in the organization at the right time. But assuming you could achieve that, I would argue that you put yourself in as digitally a transformative position as humanly possible. The degree to which you can answer that question confidently, we are capable of getting the right information to the right people in our organization at the right time. Rating yourself, I guess, on a scale of 0 to 10, where 10 is we can do that without any hesitation, and 0 is we don't even know where to start. That is in some ways a way of diagnosing your level of internal disruptability, the opportunity for people to displace you because they have access to and can act on better information than you can. So there are several ways of diagnosing one's dependence on technological change, but ultimately it comes down to an honest conversation with oneself about how capable you feel when it comes to responding to change. That really is the ultimate metric.
Okay, so I have another question. In terms of now not looking at technology from inside out as to how you can run your business more efficiently or solve problems that you've identified, now looking at technology from the other way around, from outside in. When it comes to leadership, looking at the pace of technological change, when or what indicators can you advise people to look out for, or signals that technology is a threat to your business and your business model, and when technology is an opportunity for your business to either, again, as you talked about, use it as an antibiotic or as an accelerant? But that's both I would say, in the opportunity quadrant, where technology can help your business to grow or to go faster or to do things better at a better degree of quality or an efficiency. But there's that other side of technology, when technology can disrupt your business and can actually force you into a period of change where an antidote and an accelerant would not be actually the correct solution for you going forward.
I guess there's three levels. There's that macro level where OpenAI has made ChatGPT available to the public, and everybody's publishing stories that say the world is never going to be the same again. And there's something happening at a global level that you can look at and go, wow, like there is technological shift here that I should probably be paying some attention to. My caveat to that is that those things are almost always overstated, and that we should always temper our response to those with the underpinning principle that you can quite safely assume you have more time than everybody's making you believe you have to respond to those changes. Then there's more proximal metrics. So one layer down would be at an industry level. You're a cardiologist and a new piece of technology has been introduced that allows for a level of intrinsic scanning that you didn't have access to before. Now it's a case of going, okay, like I'm being affected at a competitive level here, and that this particular competitor has access to this technology and I don't, and I need to fashion a response or plan a response to that in some way. But even then, we might find that adoption of that technology or that practice around that technology takes that particular player off in a direction that opens up space for you to operate in another realm. So it is even then not necessarily a determinant of success or failure. And then I think the third metric would be if we see an external technology having a significant impact on our most critical metrics, whether it be customer churn or price points or whatever it might be, then I guess we would have to figure out a way to respond to that very directly. And sometimes that can be because those macro technologies or trends have become more proximal and are affecting us on an intimate level. But that would obviously require pretty immediate and a deliberate response in the interest of keeping yourself alive.
And then one last question from my side. This is more a management question. And here, I mean, I've certainly worked with clients in the banking sector who had invested a whole lot of money in new technologies. And I'll give you one example without mentioning names. They invested a whole bunch of money into this new voice recognition software to better protect their banking clients, right? Biometrics by voice. Seemed like a very good idea at the time, invested a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of technology. But then I came along to do a workshop on the future with them, and I happened to bring along some case studies about how exactly that technology they just adopted in the UK had just been exposed to a massive data breaches and massive security risks, because it turns out cloning people's voices, ask Scarlett Johansson and the likes, is actually not that difficult when it comes to AI. So how do you go about disinvesting in technology and walking away from sunk costs when it turns out you've moved in this direction, but the market's moved here, without demotivating your troops and your corporate culture? How do you walk away gracefully from a place where you've led people, where you now have to lead them in a different direction?
Yeah, I mean, Bronwyn, that's such a big topic. I mean, one of the reasons why we don't talk about IT anymore, information technology, as being the domain of innovation and our proactive technological response as an organization, is because the department that we called IT was poo-pooed by the failures of all the investment that happened into big ERP in the late 90s, early 2000s, and service providers, that these tools were going to magically solve all of our problems. And what has happened to IT, sadly, is that it's become, in many instances, a department focused on damage control and essentially catering to the inefficiencies of the software that we spent a lot of money on. It's really difficult to know when to cut costs and reinvent versus fix existing infrastructure. And obviously, there's so many variables that go into that mix. One of the ways to do that is by spinning off innovative little battalions of capability that are independent and autonomous responses to that change. One example of that might be an organization like MultiChoice, choosing a vehicle like Showmax as a response to an emerging threat, rather than trying to reinvent the whole DSTV architecture to respond to streaming. But the reality of that situation is that we are inherently, even on a kind of cognitive capability, far more aware of the costs of changing. So the costs of new software or new infrastructure, new investment, than we are on the cost of not changing.
The final question I have is, you mentioned the cost of changing versus the cost of not changing, right? And I'm a leader and I discover that I need to change. How do I pivot?
Sure. Again, a really tough question, but I think that there are one or two thought experiments that can help the willing pivoteer orientate themselves towards meaningful change. And my favorite thought experiment is one that I stole from an author and public speaker called Tom Goodwin, who wrote a book called Digital Darwinism. And Tom says, start with the question, what would this business or this business unit or this product or my service, what would this look like if I built it from scratch today? How would I build it if I had none of the legacy thinking or infrastructure or pain or bureaucracy from the past to deal with? And if I look at what I would create, if I sketch that out as an idea, as a utopian possibility, what are the differences between the thing that I would create and the thing that I have, right? And then when I look at those differences, what are my reasons for those differences? And what you'll realize is there are some reasons that have behind them really great reasons, like maybe I'm protecting thousands of jobs by doing it this way, and that we could argue is a very good reason, especially in our context. But you might find that there are other things that have very few good reasons supporting the way that they are, other than the way we've always done it, right? That's how we do things around here. And for those things, I think if you're looking to pivot, that's where the easiest wins are. That's where the most meaningful change can come in the shortest period of time, is angling yourself towards the thing that you would build by displacing the assumptions or the things that we do that have very little logical value underpinning to them. That would be one starting point. But obviously, every case, every scenario, and every project is different.
Thank you so much, Mai, for your time. I think we could talk about this forever, because I think me and Bronwyn have so many questions around digitization, digitizing, pivoting your business, especially with regards to using technology and integrating it. For those who are viewing, please continue to look at our other 15-minute conversations, like, subscribe, share, and also just like follow Mike on his social media platforms, just to get more context and more depth on how to actually pivot your business model from one, especially technologically, from one point to another. Thank you.